Welcome back to the Tech Stop. Today we're going to be terminating two different types of Datacom cabling. The first up is going to be your standard coaxial cable, which is RG6, and then we're going to be terminating Cat5E, and the process for Cat5E is basically the same as Cat6, except for Cat6 sometimes has a plastic or material similar to plastic that goes through the middle that separates the four twisted pairs, and you just cut that away. The wiring we're doing is not shielded. Shielding on Cat5E or Cat6 is an extra shield that runs all the way down the wire and has a drain wire at the end, and you have to put that on a special type of connector that has metal around it. That just helps filter out any interference with the wire if it's running near electrical lines and things like that. We're basically sticking to the basics. These tools right here are fairly inexpensive. You can get the kit that it has this compression tool, this tester, and this stripper for $40. That I've had for, let's say, 10 years or something like that. It's been 8 to 10 years that I've had that crimper, and it was $10. And I don't use it anymore. I use pass-through for everything now, so I have an Ideal EZ, and then I also just bought the Klein Tools pass-through compact. It is non-ratcheting, however, but it's 30 bucks, and if you're interested in doing pass-through, which makes it a lot easier and quicker, you can do that. It's just a little bit more expensive. This is our Belden PPC compression F connector for the RG6, and I bought a package of 50 of those for something like 10 bucks, and those have done very well for me so far. That is an old Cat5E tester right there. I don't use that one much anymore, but that's just a comparison to what you could get for around the $8 to $10 range now. And then a Craftsman slide out utility knife. I bought this the other day for 6 bucks. Everything here is relatively low priced, and I definitely would not recommend these tools for everyday usage, because this tool right here is only good for F connectors on RG6. If you needed to compress connectors on RG59, RG11, put B and C connectors on, RCA connectors, anything that requires a compression tool, it is non-adjustable. You cannot take the heads out and compress different types of connectors. So for that, you might want to invest in a little bit more pricey one that can be around the $50 range just for that. I know Klein Tools has an extended reach one, which is nice if you have short little cables and you're maybe putting a compression connector on inside of a box. So that's pretty nice. We're not doing any punch down. I have a standard 110 block punch down here. This runs about 5 bucks if you can find it anymore, and it's a little bit better than what comes with them. I don't use this one anymore. When I first started, I used this one because it was inexpensive, and I only put those keystones in very seldom. But now I have one that has the clicking action and has a cutter on the side, so definitely makes the process easier, and I'll do a video on that in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the RG6. Basically, you just want to make sure that you follow the steps very well, because if you don't, then you will get an inaccurate connection. And this is not what you would normally see in maybe commercial grade things. You are not certifying this cable, and if you don't know what cable certification means, it's a very expensive device called a certifier that tests the length and the I guess the quality of the cable when you run your cable in certain ways, if it has any interference from maybe electrical lines or things like that, and if it was terminated the correct way. Certifications are expensive, and usually big businesses, when they get mini drops put in, get certifiers to come in and test them. And I'll show you a mock-up certification right here, and this is kind of what the process looks like. And since we're not doing any of that, we're doing basic testing. Most time you're just going to be doing this in your home if you're learning how to do this for the first time, and then you might move on up and get even better tools. Let's go ahead and start with the RG6 though and get everything else off. This tester right here, this is a little mapper, and it's useful for I guess finding different coaxial cables throughout your house. You can plug the remote in to the wall socket and go back out to where your splitter is and put the tester in and map out your cables. This one comes with only one remote, but you can order the extra remotes and have a total of 4. Alright, let me go ahead and get readjusted, and I'll do my best with the camera to show the actual work that's being done. So the first thing that you'll need to do is make sure that the cut on the end of the RG6 cable is flush and even relatively. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want it relatively evenly cut. Now you have the option of, once you put this built-in PPC connector on, you can put one of these covers on it, which makes it easier to grip. And I will, just because it was very easy for me to get. This is an Amazon Basics one, and it works pretty well. I'm trying my best here to film. It is hard to get focus on such a small cable, however, but I think you'll get the idea pretty well. So first up, you want to take your cable, and you want to get the Klein Tools stripper. If you have anything left in it from the last one, you can go ahead and drop the guard down and open it, and it will fall out. Now you want to slide it back up, covering the hole. You just insert the cable until it touches the back of the cutter, the stripper. And then you just turn it a couple times in each direction. And then when you pull it off, it strips it perfectly for you. This is a 1/4 inch of conductor and a 1/4 inch of braided cable. On a quad shielded cable, however, there will be another layer of aluminum and braid after this, but this is not quad shielded, so you don't have to worry about that. But if yours does, just make sure you repeat this step I'm about to do twice. So you want to take all these braids that are right here. Now some of them will fall off just because of how that stripper is, and if you use a blade, possibly even more could fall off, but as long as you have the majority of them, you'll be good. So you want to just peel all of these back. So basically you just have that pure aluminum foil. You don't want any of those braids sticking up and touching the copper, because then you would have a short in the line basically. So once all of these are braided back like this, you can go ahead and take your connector, and this white dielectric right here needs to be flush with the inside of this. So when you look down in it, you'll see metal and then a hole, and that white dielectric needs to be level with the rest of the metal in there. So you just want to push that down and firmly press it in until it is level. Some, like the Klein Tools ones that come with that, you get like 10 or something with when you buy that kit, have a plate there that stops it to where it automatically aligns it for you, but you want that dielectric right there. And now it's level. So you want to go ahead and take your compression tool, you open it up, and you just set it in like so, and make sure you squeeze down all the way. And you basically put on a compression connector just like that. You can give it a good tug just to make sure it's not going anywhere, but this one is on very tight, and this is a very simple process. Now, this is not a certifier or a tester to tell you how good the connection is, but this will work pretty well. And you will need a barrel connector in order to connect this remote to the cable directly, so I'm going to go ahead and grab one of those and demonstrate this tester. So now we have both ends of the cable here, and you can go ahead and put that cover on yours if you'd like. If not, it's not very necessary, but you can. And you want to go ahead and screw this barrel connector right here onto either side of the cable. And then with the tester, you just put that onto the other one. Now it's just easier for me to screw these onto the cable, but usually you would screw the cable onto this. So once you have this connector on, you can go ahead and put your remote, and this one only comes with one, on that cable. And when you test, it will show you that there is a good connection going through. It doesn't tell you necessarily the quality, but it does show you that it is going all the way through. Now, if this remote was not here, it would tell you that it is open, and if it had crossed, meaning those braids had touched the main copper, it would tell you that there was a short. Basically that there was continuity throughout the entire thing, which is not good. So basically this process is very simple. If you're trying to do this in your home, I'd recommend this process much more than your basic crimp-on connectors, because the crimp-on connectors are not as reliable and as well put on the cable as these compression connectors are. If you do not crimp it on the cable correctly, it could come off, and the twist-on connectors are absolutely horrible. They work alright for some analog things if you were using an antenna in your house, but for like DOCSIS and Mocha modems and things like that, it drops a lot of signal. Let's go ahead and move on to the category 5E cable. So this portion of the video is going to be the most difficult for me to film, but it will still be visible for you, so you can use what you see here and what I am saying to help you do this effectively. So if you do not have a stripper for this cable, which looks very similar to the one that I have for the coaxial cable, I just do not have it with me, you can use a razor knife, and that is alright. So you want to go ahead and take the razor knife, Now the thing you want to remember is be careful not to pierce through the sheathing and damage any of the cables inside. So what I like to do is not press the blade against the cable, but the cable to the blade. So I will hold it about an inch back and put my thumb on it and just be very careful. And just roll the cable along the blade, not putting much pressure at all. You'll start to see it splinter here, and then you can grab onto the cable and pull it off. You just want to make sure that you do not splice into any of those cables, and you'll see a white string here. You can go ahead and just cut that off, because what that does is allow you to pull back more of the sheathing and pull the wires out of the sheathing if you need to. And just visually inspect the cables towards where you cut, just to make sure you do not puncture through any of them, because that will definitely hurt the signal and integrity of the cable. So go ahead and separate these pairs. And you're going to use a certain pattern that you want to put these in. Showing you on the screen right now is the A and B forms of this cable, and the standard that most people use is B, and you want to remember this and use this for all your cables, because it makes replacing those cables, servicing those cables much easier, and that's what most technicians use, so you'll be on the same page as them when you go to do work after them. So like I said, we're using B, and let's go ahead and start with that. So it's going to be a white orange, orange, white green blue, white blue green, white brown brown pattern. You want to go ahead and individually unwrap all of these cables, and most of this exposed wire right here, or the exposed individual pairs, are going to be cut away, because you don't want any of this sticking out of the connector. The connector needs to push up to the blue right here. Go ahead and unwrap all these wires and straighten them out with your fingers. Just run them through your fingers to where they are straight, because this will definitely help you put it together much easier. They all kind of stay where they're supposed to be. If they're curved, it'll be definitely hard to cut even and put in the connector. Definitely not impossible, however. I've had to do it. I didn't have much cable to work with. It's just not very easy, especially if you're doing this for the first or maybe first few times. You start to get the hang of it once you've done it quite a few times. Now once you have these cables here, you want to go ahead and straighten them out. And also, one thing I want to add in, you want to put the connector as close to where the cables are twisted as possible, because they are twisted to block out interference. That is one thing that is good to remember. So once you have this straightened out, let's go ahead and start with the pattern here. So you want to put it in, the first cable is going to be your white orange, and then your orange. So you'll put these two together and hold them close at the bottom and straighten it out all the way to the top. Now your next cable is going to be your white green, and you'll just introduce that one in and straighten it out as well. And then you're going to have your blue. Just bring that in, straighten it out. Then your white blue. And then your green. And you kind of want to put it in a pattern to where it's easy to get to the other cables still. You can kind of use your nail to straighten it out. And you want to just make sure that your pattern's staying. So with mine, it kind of crosses over right here, but if you look down low, it's still in the same pattern. So you want to run your fingernail through the wires to make sure it stays in the correct order. If you cut it and it's in the incorrect order, you'll be in trouble. So if you want to double check, you have your white orange, orange, your white green, blue, your white blue, and your green. So we're in the correct order. And then your white brown, and then your brown. So I'm going to hold this out of view, and you want to visually check and just make sure that it is in the correct order. And with mine, it seems that the orange wire likes to slide over to the right a little bit, so you just go ahead and straighten it out. And if you look here, you'll see a white orange, orange, a white green, a blue, a white blue, a green, and then your brown is kind of out. Just move it over. Your white, brown, and brown. Once you get yourself in a good position where you feel comfortable that the wires are not going to move on you, just verify one more time. And you want to go ahead and get a connector ready. So I have one right here, and you can use the clipper part and slide it over your cables. And you want to leave about that much right there. And we are in the correct order, so go ahead and hold it and try to make it an even cut. And you want to take your connector and and slide those cables up into the connector. Now you're going to have to look, and mine is in the same correct order. Sometimes it will slip out of order when you're pushing it in, and you can use a flashlight and look down through the top. Once this is on, you just make sure that your sheathing goes up in there pretty well. And I like to put it into the crimper and push down on it, and then crimp it well. I apologize if this was out of the view of the camera. It's definitely hard for me to watch the camera and do this at the same time. And just crimp down as hard as you can. And that's definitely one side. This thing will not come loose. It crimps down on the wires pretty well. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side, and then I'll show you how the tester works. Alright, so now I have both of these crimped. And if you look, the sheathing goes way up into the connector, not too far in, but this looks like an overall solid connection. And if you look at the top, the wires are pushed up all the way to the end, and I used my crimper and put a lot of pressure on there to make sure it was crimped all the way down. I have an extra connector here. It's always good to have an extra just in case something does not go correctly, as those accidents will happen. So this tester I do not use anymore, and the main reason for that is it was used so much that the ports are loose. So it is it's very difficult to use if you're doing by yourself and you have wires in different locations, because the remote has to be held and the tester has to be held. But for this video, it will work pretty well. So you just want to go ahead and connect your wire to one side and then connect your other wire to the other side. And for me, I just have to hold it, and we're going to go ahead and turn it on. Now what you want to make sure is that your lights add up. Now you'll see that one light is missing, and that is your ground. So if you had a shielded cable, it would send a signal through that drain cable too, and would come up here just to let you know that your ground is connected correctly. Alright, so hopefully you made it through this video and it was helpful. If you did make it through this video, I greatly appreciate it, because I'm still an amateur when it comes to filming skills, and I'm doing my best here with what I have and trying to make something that is educational and helpful for people trying to do things at home themselves. All of these tools that I use here are pretty good quality, except for maybe the crimper. The RJ45 crimper could be upgraded for sure, but I don't use this one. I own 3 different crimpers, and my favorite one is definitely the low profile Klein. And I had another pair of Klein that I sold to someone who else works in the field and liked mine. They were an old style and they don't sell them anymore. As far as the Klein tools to the right, I've featured these in a different video before, and I enjoy them very much. The only downside to the compression tool is its ability, not ability, to adjust to different types of compressions. And I don't really use this tool that much, that's why it's so clean, and same with the tester. And I also have another one of these strippers that's in my 5-gallon tool bucket that I have, that I store all my tools in, that I take to sites with me. Overall, these tools are definitely good if you're doing this, maybe not so often, maybe little things around your house, or if you're into the IT world, you can definitely have these things, because you'll run across areas in IT where you'd love to have these tools, and it can be really helpful for you. In the next video, I'm going to show a little tool bag that I have that I've incorporated these 3 tools into. So hopefully you'll enjoy that, and it'll be coming right after this video, and I'll edit them both at the same time. If you have any comments or questions, please post them below. I will respond to all of them as soon as I get them. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.